Okay guys, today we're going to be multiplying fractions and also quickly reviewing how to simplify. So as a reminder, I already have some stuff written down, so if at any point whenever I'm starting a section you have to stop, that way you can write, that's fine. Or if you want to hear me explain, let's say fraction by a fraction, explain all of it, and then stop right before I move on to the second section and so on, that is perfectly fine, whatever works for you the best, okay? So let's start off with multiplying a fraction by a fraction. As you can tell over here, I messed up. You don't have to copy that. But step number 1 says multiply the numerator. So the numerator is the number on top, 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, your second step says multiply the denominator. Denominators are the numbers on the bottom. What is 5 times 4? 5 times 4 is 20. So your answer, you would think, is 6/20. However, we still need to do step number 3. Step number 3 says to simplify. So we have to simplify 6/20. If they are both even numbers, you know they can be simplified. If they end with a 0 or 5, they most likely can be simplified. So the way I'm going to do, that I'm going to show myself simplifying a number is by starting off a t-chart. I'm going to do a t-chart for my numerator. I'm going to do a t-chart for my denominator. Okay, and I'm going to look at the factors. And I'm going to start off with 1. 1 times what gives me 6? Well, 1 times 6 gives me 6. So I'm going to write 1 and 6. Then I'm going to move on to number 2. 2 times what gives me 6? Well, 2 times 3. If your numbers are right next to each other, 2 and 3 go side by side, so then that means I am finished. These are the only factors that 6 have, okay? Now I'm going to move on to 20. I'm going to do 1 times 20, 2 times 10, okay? 3, can I do 3 times something? No. How about 4? Well, 4 times 5 gives me 20. And 4 and 5 are right next to each other in the number line, so I am finished. Those are all my factors for 20. Now I have to find my greatest common factor. So which one of these is the number with the greatest value and is on both 6 and 20? Well, the answer to that is 2. Okay. As you can see, 6 and 3, there's no 6 and 3 here. There's no 20 over here, there's no 10 over here, there's no 5 over here, and there's no 4 over here. So 2 is our greatest common factor. That means that I'm going to divide both sides, both the numerator and the denominator, by 2. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. 20 divided by 2 gives me 10. So 3/10 would be my actual answer, okay? Now 3/10 and 6/20, they are equivalent. They are equal to one another. But whenever you turn in your work, you need to make sure that your fractions are always simplified. So if you got 6/20, you did your math right, but you didn't finish it through, okay? So make sure that you simplify. And doing a t-chart will always help you, okay? It might take a little bit longer, but it will help. Now let's prove that it is 6/20 or 3/10. We can prove this by showing a picture model. So the first one says 2/5, so I'm going to shade in 2 out of the 5 bars that I have. And then the next one says times 3/4. So here I have one that's in fourths, and I'm going to shade 3 of them. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade over here what I shaded here. So I'm going to shade 2 columns, and I'm going to shade 3 rows, okay? It's kind of like if these two were put together and they were overlapping. So whenever you do that, you can then count the total number of squares in this rectangle right here. Well, the total number of squares, there's 20 squares in total, and then in order to get the numerator, the number on the top, you have to count how many of those squares were colored in by both the blue and the green. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6/20. And as I've mentioned before, your last step is to simplify. So you would simplify it, and then you would get 3/10. Okay? So that's just a proof on how we multiply fractions by fractions. You multiply your numbers on the top, you multiply your numbers on the bottom, and you simplify. Okay, you multiply numerators, multiply denominators, and simplify. The next step is fraction by a whole number. Okay, so let's say we have 1/4 times 5. Okay, your first step says rewrite the whole number as a fraction. Whenever you have a whole number, you can always put it on top of 1 if you're trying to convert it into a fraction. So I have my fraction, 1/4, times. I have my whole number here, which is 5. So I'm going to put 5/1. Okay, now I'm on to step number 2. It says multiply your fractions. Well, here we learned that all you have to do is multiply straight across. 1 times 5 gives me 5. 4 times 1 gives me 4. Okay, now this right here we learned yesterday is a certain kind of fraction, and it's called an improper fraction. I can always change my improper fractions into a mixed number by dividing. Okay, top goes in, that is 5. Bottom goes out, that is 4. Okay, so 4 can go into 5 a total of 1 whole time, so that means my number is going to be 1 whole. Okay, 4 times 1 gives me 4. 5 minus 4 gives me 1. That means my remainder is 1. And as I've mentioned before, the denominator stays the same. So that's 1 1/4. Step number 3 says to simplify. I cannot get any simpler than 1 1/4. So 1 1/4 will be my answer. Okay. Now, if you're asking yourself, well, what does this exactly mean? Let's go ahead and draw a picture. So let's say, so we're going to draw something to represent 1/4. Here I'm going to draw a square that has 4 pieces inside of it, okay? But it's saying times 5, so that means there's 5 of these. So I'm going to draw 5 of these. Okay, it does not have to be perfect. Okay, so that's 5 of them. And it says that each one is shaded 1/4. So 1, 1, 1, 1, and a 1. Okay, so now if we were to put all of these together, we would notice that we could have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares shaded into 1, but then we would be left over with 1/4. Okay, so it would look something like this. Okay, I took this square right here, and I'm going to place it, this one right here, and I'm going to place it right here. This square right here, I'm going to place it right here. This one right here, I'll place it right here. This one right here, I'll place it right here, and then this extra one goes on the second one. So as you can tell now on my answer side, I have one whole square covered up, and then I have 1/4 of another one. That's what it means by 1 1/4. Okay, I took 1/4 and I multiplied it by 5 to get 1 1/4. And once again, my answer is already simplified. And the last step is step number 1. And it says convert mixed numbers to your improper fraction. So let's say I have 1 1/2 times 2 2/3. Now I have to remember to make these mad so like that I can change them into improper fractions. That means I am going to start off by multiplying. 2 times 1 gives me 2. Then I'm going to add. 2 plus 1 gives me 3, and I keep my denominator the same. Okay, once again, multiply. 2 times 3. 2 times 3 gives me 6. Add my numerator. 6 plus 2 gives me 8. And then the D in math stands for denominator, stays the same. So it is a 3. So now I have my new fractions. I have 3 over 2 times 8 over 3. Okay, so once again, I'm going to just multiply across. 8 times 3, that gives me 24. 2 times 3, that gives me 6. Okay, and the last step says convert back. So I'm going to convert my now improper fraction back into a mixed number. And as we've talked about it before, I changed my improper fractions into a mixed number by dividing. So I'm going to do top goes in, bottom goes out. Top, bottom, okay. 6 can go into 24, a total of 4 times. 6 times 4 is 24, has 0. Well, then that means that I have a whole number right here. My answer is 4. Okay. Because it is a whole number, there's nothing else I can do. It is already simplified. I don't have to go any further than that, okay? So this is how you multiply fractions and simplify your fractions as well, okay? Please make sure that you look at each situation. Remember, doing a fraction by a fraction is pretty simple. You just go straight across, top number times top number, bottom number times bottom number, okay? And then if you're given any of your mixed numbers and improper fractions, you already know how to change them. It's like that you can use whatever you need. Okay guys, thanks.